Hey, welcome to the Thrivecast. It is a production of the Thrival organization, and Thrival has been around, going strong for almost 15 years, where firm owners come from all over the world to build community and grow and build their firms together through our programs, events, education, and conferences. And we want to say thank you to Bill. They are a sponsor of the Thrivecast and have been for many years. We're actually a 15-year user of Bill in our firm. So thank you, Bill, for helping us as we deploy Bill into a lot of our controllership and CAS work with our clients all across the country. Thank you, Bill, for being a sponsor of the Thrivecast. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm so excited for another Thrivecast. We always bring guests who actually know tons about the accounting profession. So I'm really excited to have Michael Horwitz. Michael from BDO Alliance, thank you for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Jason. Great to be here.
Yeah.
You set the bar pretty high with that introduction.
Yeah.
So hopefully.
I mean, dude, you have done a lot of different things. So walk us through kind of your career. Were you at BDO before you became the executive director and the leader?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. I'm not a CPA.
Okay.
Never thought I would be hanging out in an accounting firm for as long as I have been.
Yeah.
So I got my master's degree in international economics from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy and started my career lending money to multinational companies.
Okay.
Got into consulting. My consultancy was with a property tax firm that was acquired by Ernst & Young in the mid-1990s. So that's how I got into the profession, so to speak, in a specialty tax practice area within EY. I joined a small group that was formed within EY to help us start an alliance at Ernst & Young in the late 90s. So that's my first introduction to working with accounting firms as clients, if you will, and joined the BDO Alliance team in 2002. It was a program that was started in the early 90s, 1993, by BDO Seidman at the time.
Yeah.
So my tenure with BDO now is 22 years or so, but I've been hanging around accounting firms for a little bit longer than that. I was a principal at EY before joining BDO as a partner.
Very cool. Well, in your bio, you did mention there was some work you had done at a previous firm, creating an alliance, and
Yes.
So that was the E&Y alliance. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
At the time, there was nothing like it.
Yeah.
It was short-lived. There's no real version of a traditional association or alliance model within the Big Four, even today.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting exercise, learned a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm very passionate about it because here I am.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the BDO Alliance is well known for being super valuable. And I think you probably remember an older firm I was at, Burkett.
Yes.
CPAs in South Carolina was my first stint over 25 years ago into the public profession. Were they the first members of the Alliance?
They were.
Nice.
Good memory. Yes.
Very cool.
So this is at the very infancy of our program.
Nice.
Back in 1993. We reached out to firms around the country, mostly in markets that BDO did not have a physical presence in. So in West Columbia, South Carolina, we went there and engaged in a dialogue and created an alliance program. And the Burkett firm was our very first member, and they are still a very proud member of our alliance program today. So we're very fortunate to have them 30 plus years later.
Yeah, very cool. Well, so my partner and I, we run a community. We call it a community, and it is some type of alliance for firms. And ours is, of course, a different market that's targeted for the BDO Alliance. A lot of what we do is very entrepreneurial focused, support focused for the owners. And I think that's what y'all do too. You have a very technical aspect, I think, to what you do. You really, or is this true, you broaden really the range of the technical expertise of your alliance members? Is that one goal you have?
That is one goal, Jason. We have lots of goals.
Yeah, a lot of goals.
Just like you, this is a relationship business. So we're here to support our alliance members. They're all independent of BDO and of each other. But we're here essentially to be providing whatever support we possibly can to help them thrive. No pun intended, or maybe it is intended.
Yeah.
The reality is it's a technical business that we're in.
Yeah.
So a lot of our efforts are to support the technical needs of our alliance firms. Those might be technical tax and assurance and advisory needs. They might be related to technical training for our alliance members, but there's lots of managing and accounting practice, a lot of sharing of best practices that is really at the bedrock of what we do as an alliance program.
Okay. How have y'all dealt with, this has not been a real issue, but really competitors coming together to build community.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's ever been an issue with BDO. When Burkett was in there, they just leaned in as hard as they could to the education and whatever y'all all shared. And what do you think about competition with firms like that coming into an alliance?
Great question.
Yeah.
So if you step back, the very basic precept and fundamental of our program is one of abundance. I think there's a lot of work out there for a lot of great firms.
Yeah.
So let's try to help each other out, right? On occasion, you're going to bump into someone and compete with them, and may the best firm win in those instances.
Yeah.
So there's no restriction on competing amongst our alliance members whatsoever. But you need to be comfortable with that concept. Not all firms are.
Yeah.
Some firms have the mindset this is a zero-sum game, and if you take something, it's really going to disadvantage me. We tend not to attract those types of firms. And if you step way back, the question is, why is BDO even doing this? Right? Why are we sharing all of our intellectual property with today 258 great US-based accounting firms? It's because we have a recognition that there's an abundance of opportunities out there for all of us.
Yeah.
And maybe 1 + 1 = 3, like our CEO Wayne Burson likes to say. So if we can help out an alliance firm in a local market, in a small market maybe, where there's no national firm presence, but they've got great client needs and the ability to serve those clients, and maybe they borrow something from our shelf from time to time to help them be a better client service provider, it's a win.
Nice. Well, that's cool. I never thought about it that before. But if we start a community or lead something like that, we do have an abundance mindset. It's presupposed that if you would join with other firms, you're going to share, and you're not going to be taking from each other. You're really going to be giving, and that's the basis of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the type of firm that we tend to engage with definitely has that abundance mindset. They're growth oriented, so they recognize in their local communities there's great opportunities to be of broader service, not only to their existing client base, but potentially to clients that are being served maybe by larger accounting firms in their marketplace. They may not have the infrastructure, the capital, the capacity to grow their own practices, and so in certain discrete areas, and hopefully we'll get to talk a little bit about how the profession's evolving and getting into advisory, non-traditional services. But being able to leverage the resources of this very broad community has been extremely accretive to those firms and very beneficial to BDO as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's cool that BDO would just, assume we don't know everything. We want all the learning from all of our alliance members too. That helps BDO. Yeah.
Well, think about it. We're a big firm. We're the 5th largest firm globally. Our alliance members are in all 50 states, so we have boots on the ground literally in every single state from a state and local tax perspective. If we need some help, we're phoning a friend as well. Yeah,
that's so cool. Well, so if some firms are not right for that kind of this community or alliance, how do you grow an alliance? Like, do you choose regions you want to be in, or what are the methods you go about doing that?
Well, by definition, if we're in 50 states, we've chosen every single region in every single state. Right. So we we do covet the fact that we have representation all over the country. And we have firms of all shapes and sizes. We have some firms that are less than $1 million in revenues, emerging firms.
Wow.
We have firms as large as a couple $100 million in revenues.
Yeah.
The average size firm, just to be mathematically correct, is about 16 million
Okay.
in revenues.
Okay.
And some are very focused on a particular industry, some very focused on a particular service line. Our members come in all shapes and sizes, and we've gravitated to creating a very diverse membership.
Nice.
So lots of ethnically owned, minority-owned firms,
Nice.
a number of women-owned firms. We have a couple of firms that are multi-generations, so
Very cool.
parents and children
Yeah.
running those firms. A whole host of different fabrics comprising the BDO Alliance, and we're very proud of that.
No, that's cool. That's how we view, the Thrival community, like a tapestry. A lot of beautiful weaving goes into a really beautiful, tapestry. So that, nobody has to make you be diverse. You want it because it makes you super strong in what you do. So we love that concept, and that y'all really, love that too. It's, the education that BDO has, the Alliance particularly, has some pretty awesome education. Like, do you have an education department, or how do you make something so strong? I think that's something y'all are known for. In some of your conferences, I don't know if they fill up like crazy, but they're just very good and cutting edge. How do y'all do that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Listen. Well, we have a bit of an unfair advantage in the sense that BDO needs to educate 12,000 people.
That's right.
Right, in BDO USA.
Yeah.
And so we're drawing upon all of the training that BDO USA offers to all of our team members, from first-year staff all the way up through principals, technical training, leadership training, etc. And then we're adding to it and supplementing with training that we go out and either create or borrow from third parties to augment the BDO training. So at the very base, there's a whole host of level training opportunities for our Alliance members sitting into the same training that BDO professionals are taking. Obviously, with COVID, there's much less in-person training going on, so it's virtual. And whether it's an Alliance firm jumping in on a webinar or a BDO staff or principal, it's easy for us to accommodate from a logistical perspective.
Yeah.
And then we're doing a lot more in terms of accommodating what's new in the profession. So we've got an amazing Client Accounting and Advisory Services Summit, CAS Summit. We just created an AI Summit for our Alliance members that we hosted. We're doing lots with transaction advisory services, a ton of industries. We've got roundtables for our members. So we keep them quite busy.
Yeah.
And the opportunities to learn from each other and from BDO are paramount to our program.
Yeah, very cool. Well, when you level people up through education, they start making more money, right? Because, CAS and advisory, we can just charge more for that. The value of that is through the roof for our clients. So the education really levels up firms. Do they take advantage of it fully, or do just some members take more advantage of it than others? Like, what do you find across the Alliance?
Well, one way of thinking about this, Jason, is like a buffet that you prepay for, and you can go in and there's a ton of stuff on the buffet table. Some days you're super hungry and you consume a lot, other days not so much. Some people gravitate to certain things and others take a pass. I certainly would personally hope that our Alliance members get all the value that they can out of our training. We can provide hundreds of hours of CPE to our Alliance members every year. Nobody has the time to take hundreds of hours of CPE.
Right.
We can certainly cover the 40 that they're required to get, but we generally recommend that our Alliance firms take some of our training and blend it with some training that might go on through their local state societies or other industry groups that they're involved with. Overall, they're getting great advantage from national firm training, which is a recruiting benefit as well, to be able to offer to new folks coming out of school, or maybe some experienced hires coming from other firms, to be able to say, I can offer you national firm training.
Nice.
and you can be with my great local entrepreneurial firm that's independently owned and thriving.
Yeah, I love it. That's very cool. Well, I've got to ask you about trends in the accounting profession. That's what every accounting podcast has got to get into, right?
Sure.
But your perspective is going to be really big, really broad, global. You've seen a lot of it. The Alliance, I think, is not global, but BDO is global.
Yes.
So you still have a
Absolutely
very
correct.
global perspective on what you're doing. And I guess I never thought about this until we're talking, but a BDO Alliance member, that seems like that could be a route that's different from PE. Like if they're an older owned firm and they're thinking, I got to get out of this game, PE, if that's an option, it seems like they could go to an alliance and actually fill some of that same need. Is that actually true, that those could go together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
And they're symbiotic in the sense that we're offering things that private equity doesn't offer and
Right.
vice versa.
Right.
So all of our members are independent. We're not providing them with capital. We're not investing in them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what PE does.
Yep.
PE does provide that capital infusion to a firm, and it enables them to make certain investments that maybe they wouldn't have made on their own, maybe investing in technology or doing a transaction and a merger or hiring some lateral talent or building a new line of business. Those are all things that private equity can do very well, helping firms grow, etc. We're here to support firms in a whole bunch of different ways, providing them with the training that we talked about earlier, the technical assistance, answering questions for them that may come up from time to time, helping share some of the knowledge that we have when we build an accounting firm in terms of content and thought leadership and specialty services. None of this stuff is really what PE is trying to do.
Right.
So we actually have a number of firms in our alliance members that have received private equity investments. So it's not an either or.
That's right. Okay.
But when firms say, hey, I want to maintain my independence, I don't want to take a capital infusion, we're very much built to support them in maintaining their independence, growing, doing many of the things that they could do through capital injection from PE, like acquiring a new service line. Maybe they can borrow some resources from BDO. Or maybe they want to have the ability to serve clients in multiple marketplaces. Well, we can cover that through our geographic coverage with BDO offices and alliance firm offices. So a number of the things we do offer that can go hand in hand with private equity or be in lieu of private equity.
Okay, that makes sense. That distinction makes sense now, because private equity probably is an injection of purchase kind of model. Y'all are heavily education, leveling up firms, to kind of supporting them, from an independent perspective. But you don't have to. Some still get private equity and remain in the BDO Alliance. So.
Absolutely. And one of the big things, as you know, Jason, is the challenges that firms are facing with respect to succession.
Right.
Right, and planning for the evolution. And the fact is that most partnerships haven't funded their retired partners' retirements.
Right.
So that gets funded over time during the retirement of that particular partner. So private equity takes care of that financial burden oftentimes by providing the capital to pay out those partners. And it's just, again, it's a business decision on the part of those partners. We, BDO, determined that wasn't the right solution for us. We became an ESOP-owned firm.
That's right.
In 2023. So the largest ESOP-owned firm. So everyone in my firm here in the U.S., we have 10,000 people. They're all owners of the firm.
That's cool.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember when y'all were going through that, you were dealing with the partnership model and then went to ESOP. I mean, that's pretty innovative and creative, obviously, for a firm your size to do it. What was that journey like? Did it go well? Did you have some ups and downs, or?
Yeah, well, we're a little more than a year plus into this, so obviously time will tell.
Yeah.
We're very pleased with the results to date.
Nice.
So part of it is the messaging to the marketplace that we care about our people. We're people first culture, and giving them some skin in the game, if you will, in their first year if you will, of being part of our team, and hopefully they stay with us for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Not everybody that joins our firm will become a principal, but this is a very remunerative way to engage with our team members, in addition to compensation and benefits and 401k matching and all of the various things that we would do for our people. We want to increase the level of our recruitment and our retention and differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. And so our leadership team thought that ESOP was the way to go, and I'm very confident in our ability to execute in this model.
Oh, that's very cool. Okay, so for some trends, I'll go to the younger part of the profession and then the older part of the profession, which we kind of mentioned. I just saw an article, I think Inside Public Accounting or something, that students enrolling went up 12%.
Yes, 12%.
Yeah, I think that's probably a first in I don't know how many years, but
a long time.
Yeah, a long time. We've all been freaking out because nobody, that's not going up, enrollment in accounting, and it's like, well, that's a change. And so these younger generations, I think everybody's really focused on why are they not signing up, and I don't know that we can figure that out. But what are your thoughts about more accountants choosing accounting when they're younger?
Yeah, it's a great question. And at least in my memory, so let's say 25 years at this, I can only think of a couple of years maybe during the Great Recession in 2008 and 9 when we didn't have a capacity challenge.
Right, yeah.
Right? Every other year, there was always an excess demand compared to supply. So this isn't new.
Okay, that's a good point.
Dynamics have been here for a long time.
Yeah.
And maybe even longer than my memory goes back. We've never had enough people to do all the work that we can do. And now if you think about what the total addressable market looks like, you're talking about not only attest and tax services, but you're talking advisory, you're talking IT, cyber, valuation, wealth advisory, the buffet table, so to speak, of services has really expanded, which means you need even more people to provide all of these services to your prospective and existing clients. So we're never going to run out of the opportunity to leverage accounting majors, folks with MSTs, and just good, smart people. BDO is hiring a ton of folks with no CPA or accounting background that provide valued services to our clients. And so there's a whole host of data analysts and technologists in our firms today. There weren't roles for those people 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to think about who belongs in an accounting firm. What is an accounting firm? Right. I think that we're going to be looking at ourselves, and many do, largely as technology-driven professional services firms that happen to provide accounting, tax, and advisory services. Yeah. And so, I'm sure you read that KPMG is trying to start a law firm here in Arizona. Right. This isn't the first time that that's happened. But maybe, we're going to adopt the model that exists in the rest of the world, where accounting firms actually practice law.
Wow.
We don't practice law.
No, we're not allowed to do that.
Right? We're not allowed to. But think about the benefits of doing estate planning and not having to walk across to a law firm to get the documents executed, to do it within your own shop. So I would argue that what we will be doing in the traditional world of accounting firms 5 years from now is going to look very different. Yeah.
That freaks people out, Michael, so that it changes, right? And I think, but this view of abundance, like, I love it. I'm like, because AI is freaking us out, and I think you probably have the same view. It's like, oh no, we haven't even seen the great stuff coming. Like, the doors are being flung wide open. This is kind of, sometimes the most exciting time to be in the profession. Do you think that's true?
I do, and just think about it from you started out with, what is it like to be a young person in this world? Yeah. If you're a young, smart college graduate today, right, traditionally, you got brought into an accounting firm and you did the bottom of the barrel, repetitive, almost mindless activity repeatedly. until you mastered it, and eventually you moved on to some other things. These kids are way too smart to waste their time doing that stuff. Let's let AI deal with a lot of the issues that a younger person would generally have taken their time to grapple with, and move them up the food chain to be more value driven.
Yeah.
Right. And this isn't happening just to our profession. It's happening everywhere.
Sure. Yeah.
But with knowledge workers, we need to take out the grunt work. You need to change your mindset if you're of a certain age, thinking back and saying, well, I was tortured doing this stuff, so I got to torture these young people to do a little bit of it. No, you don't.
No.
And they're going to look for firms that are making investments in that next generation of technology. That's where they're going to gravitate to.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to do the crap work that maybe was on the plate of the current partners that joined their firms 10, 15, 20 years ago and were doing it. So I think it's a great time to be a young person coming into this profession. I think it's a great time to be in mid-career. And I think it's an amazing time to be a leader and maybe a principal or a partner of these accounting firms. They're making more money than ever, right? Firms are more profitable today. Growth rates are significantly. I think that the per partner earnings have started to, as a percentage, go down a little bit over the last couple of years, just recognizing that it costs more to do business, and we're paying staff more, which is deserved.
Right.
And investing in technology to a greater degree. But this is the heyday of the accounting profession from a financial perspective, and the opportunities are just enormous to firms, especially firms that are willing to invest in relationships.
Yeah.
And as much as we talk about AI disrupting people, they're not going to take out the relationship part of our business model.
No.
And so those folks that figure out how to develop, grow, retain trusted relationships with their clients are certainly going to thrive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's cool. It's the relationship part is never going away, and I don't know that everybody believes that, but it is true, right? The work we do is very relational, and I think that gives us a lot of security in what we do, which means we can embrace AI. We can just lean into it because it's not going to take away some of our greatest value. Right? And how we advise our clients.
Well, we have no choice.
Right.
I mean, I don't know too many people who are thinking, gee, this AI thing, it's probably going to be a flash in the pan and it's going to go away. Right. It's not going away.
Yeah. Well, it's a good point. It's like, what choice do you have? So you don't get to pick if you do it or not. You're going to.
Right. Look, I love the BlackBerry. I got my iPhone here. I'm not using a BlackBerry anymore.
You didn't, you had to not pick that eventually.
I have no choice.
That's funny. Well, okay, so we talked about the younger generations coming in, and maybe we're becoming a profession that's more attractive to those younger generations if we can kind of scoop away that grunt work. But the older generations, I remember when we started our Thrival community back to 2010, I had my eye on these baby boomers. I'm like, they're going to exit, this profession pretty soon. And I think, 2008 was preventing some of that from actually happening like they had thought. But we still have an older profession that, or a lot of the ownership is held by a certain age group, which is fine. And just the wisdom we have in that is mind-blowing to even think about. So what should they be thinking about to exit? I know private equity feels like the only option for some of them, but can they build something and hand it down as a legacy and let that firm be independent? I mean,
of course. And that's what the majority of firms, I think the AICPA reports something like 44,000 CPA firms in the U.S.
I've heard that.
Lots of publicity about private equity, but the vast majority of accounting firms will never be private equity owned, just from a mathematical perspective.
Right.
So the majority of transfer of ownership is taking place internally within firms, just the same way that it was done 20, 30, 40 years ago. New partners are being created either internally or through lateral hires. Firms are growing through expansion and buying smaller firms and tucking them into their firm. But they're essentially controlling the destiny and the transfer of ownership to the next generation, so to speak, of owners. Most of our alliance members are multi-generational partnership.
Very cool. Yeah. Very
members,
cool.
right? So you've got some folks that are in their 30s, some 40s, 50s, obviously 60s. Some have mandatory retirement ages, some don't.
Yeah.
Lots of our alliance members, more senior partners, are typically transitioning out from full-time to part-time. And so despite the fact that these retirements are not funded,
Right.
there is a succession plan that is taking place for many firms. Not all. So there are some firms out there that just haven't lined up their succession, and maybe they need to be involved in a transaction because they haven't lined up that succession.
Right. Yeah.
But I think the vast majority have thought about this and have planned for it appropriately.
Yeah. What do you think about mandatory retirement ages?
I think they're crazy. So let me preface my comment.
Okay. I love it.
I would say that if you love what you're doing, if you're passionate about it, you're going to want to keep doing it for as long as you can contribute and as long as you enjoy it. So this concept of arbitrary, we used to have at BDO when we were a partnership, theoretically mandatory retirement at 62. Big Four firms, that number is even lower.
Wow.
Right? So you could be in your 50s and retire. And not to suggest that you may not be doing something else,
right? But
you have so much to add in your 50s and 60s potentially to your firm, to your clients, to the knowledge that you're sharing. And so I'm not a big fan of the concept of mandatory retirement. Just think about it. You probably know some 60-year-olds that are thriving and vibrant. And you probably know some 55-year-olds that you think they've retired in place.
Right, yeah.
Right, and they're just counting the days to get on and get out.
Yeah.
Those are two different fact patterns. And so why have an arbitrary date and age to say, okay, when you hit this date, you're out of here. Yeah. That doesn't mean that you can't be aware of the need to bring up future leaders and make room for them. Right, so if some firms hoard ownership amongst the more senior partners and don't make room for that next generation of partnership, and that is not a good thing. So you need to accommodate the age for those partners that want to stick around longer and add value, but you need to make room. And when I say make room, make equity room for the younger generation. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I think in our profession.
What do you think?
Well, yeah, I totally agree. We tell our community a lot because I tell them at some of our conferences, I've been in my career 30 years. I hit that a couple years ago, and I said, I'm going another 30 years if y'all want to go with me. And of course, my next 30 years will look completely different. And so I think we get this mindset of, well, my first 30, I'm just going to tack that on to my last 30. And no, I've heard authors and people say your 50s and 60s sometimes is your most productive, right? You just know so much. Now the choices you have available to you, you get to pick whatever you want to do, whatever you're best at and enjoy. And that's kind of what I'm leaning into. And arbitrary anything feels foolish. It doesn't make any sense. And and so that's kind of an abundance mindset. It's like, no, you keep going. And I know people, in their 60s, they're just killing it.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's what I want to do.
Yep. Why limit yourself to 30 additional years, Jason?
Right. Well, see? Yeah. Well, I think I start to think people are going to be like, can you please go away? So I don't want to annoy people.
I don't think anyone's going to be saying that about you.
Well, so what about the global perspective? So, we don't want to have just a U.S. mindset. That makes no sense. So, but is Europe, Australia, the UK, or, the Asian countries, what are they like? Are they going through some of the same things? Is it different from what our profession's going through? What are your thoughts globally? I'm interested.
Obviously, I have less of a front row seat to this on a global basis, but BDO is in 167 countries, so I know a number of my global partners.
Yeah.
And they are, there's an aging population, they're capacity constrained, they're borrowing resources from the Philippines and India and South Africa and other places just like we are. Their evolution into client accounting services and outsourcing is consistent with ours and advisory. They're similarly structured, mostly partnerships. So the majority of the global members of BDO Global are partnerships as opposed to our ESOP structure, traditional. Okay. We are dealing with this on a global basis. We're dealing with the same challenges, paying our younger people fair value, right? And if you're a young person in any part of the world and you've got lots of different options in terms of where you head, and let's say you've got a business background or an accounting background, and your first opportunity offers you 15 or 20% more in comp, all other things being equal, maybe you're going to gravitate to that higher comp. So I'm of the opinion this would be domestic as well as global.
Okay.
But we need to start paying people more to get them going in the profession.
Yeah. Well, I think I had an accounting professor on the show, I think early last year, and he's like, when they're that young, they don't know what to choose anyway, right? So the opportunity for making money is a way they make choices. And he's like, y'all don't pay these students enough. So starting salaries are kind of a joke for a lot of them. So they're like, no thanks. And so I think, the pay is part of it, is really ramping up a lot of the starting pay, which I think the pandemic did some of that for us. It popped that up pretty good. Which is good, and that might be some of the attraction we'll start to see as they come into the profession. Who knows?
But if you think about it, there's still a delta between the top students and what they can earn in different professions and what they're being able to earn starting out in the accounting profession. Yeah. And that gap needs to narrow.
Yeah. Okay. So you would be of the opinion that starting salaries is something that has to be invested in for firms specifically?
I do.
Okay.
It's the challenge is that you hire someone and you're not exactly sure were they the right hire. Right. And a younger generation is of the mindset that it's okay to go from firm A to firm B, or C real quickly. Right. You might be there for a year or two and say, I don't love what I'm doing and working, and I'm just going to go across the street. Yeah. Maybe in my generation, that wasn't something that was as easily, that flexibility, that mobility really wasn't there. And the mindset was, if you're job hopping, that's a bad sign for you. Right. Today, there's no stigma just to looking at the resume of someone and they have got 2 or 3 different spots where they've been for before they turn 30. Yeah. That's just the fluency and the evolution of the working world. Yeah. But if we could do better at finding those right hires with less turnover, we can afford to pay people more. Right? If you're hiring 4 people thinking that I'm going to keep two of the 4 and 2 are going to go, that's probably not a good batting average. If you could be smarter and pay them a little bit more and hire 3 people and retain all of them, that's a win. Yeah, nice. All right, a couple more trending questions. These trends in the accounting profession. So have y'all solved the 150-hour rule? So whether we should require that? Come on, Michael. My own personal opinion, I think it's crazy. Which side's crazy? What do you think? The requirement of having that extra year's worth of education that may or may not be relevant to what we're doing in an accounting firm. Okay. So I think that the movement towards experiential credits is smart, and I think it'll ultimately get there. We're doing ourselves a disservice. We're limiting our population if we're really worried about getting the supply right-sized, if you will. Why continue to shoot ourselves in the foot? Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and it makes sense, like the trades, of course, and even the medical profession. There's a very strong apprentice model, built into those, and it seems to really work
and almost be it can't work another way. I don't know. But we're seeing a lot of firms start to think about, going to colleges, bringing younger people in, putting them through an apprentice model. They still pay them. It's less expensive labor, and everybody understands that because they're going to school, but they really learn a lot, going through those early years. So maybe it sounds like you're saying that would be a great direction maybe for this to go.
It would be, and again, that's my opinion. I'm not necessarily speaking for my firm, but my observation, and what I'm hearing from our members as well. Yeah,
very cool. Okay, so advisory that's been big for a number of years, hasn't it? We've been talking about that for a decade. I don't know.
Yes.
CAS is new, and I guess CAS is a subset of advisory. Where would you place CAS?
Yeah, I would place it there.
Okay.
And, I'm simplistic in my outlook. You've got assurance-related services. You've got tax-related services.
Yeah.
Everything else you might call advisory. At BDO, we segment advisory into digital and advisory, so some technology, if you will, specialty services. But the fact is that accounting firms are adept at providing solutions that go beyond traditional assurance and tax, and that's a small portion of that total addressable marketplace that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So we would be smart to think about, hey, we've got these great trusted relationships with these business owners and high net worth individuals. What do they need? How can we provide value to them? Is it something that we do on our own? Can we phone a friend and get someone to provide that service under our umbrella, if you will? And that's what accounting firms have been investing in for the last number of years. Yeah. And you know this, when you look at any kind of these benchmark reports of the top 100 firms, let's say inside public accounting or accounting today, the larger the firm, the higher the percentage of advisory services.
Yeah.
So there's actually a direct correlation, if you even look in the top 100, to those firms. And this is trending throughout the profession. The non-traditional services tend to be less commoditized. They tend to be more subscription-driven, more value-driven. Yeah. Not too many companies wake up in the morning thinking, I just can't wait to spend more money with my accounting firm on my audit,
right?
Or having them do my tax compliance work,
right?
But they do spend a lot of money thinking strategically, or looking at various ways to improve the use of their technology, or getting into new marketplaces. And so if we hunt in the areas that are of highest value to our clients, we're probably going to do pretty well financially.
Yeah, nice. And I guess that's probably where a lot of the non-technical or maybe the non-CPA hires can come from, is in the advisory areas and departments, because sometimes you don't need that technical CPA, which is a compliance-driven role. It's an amazing brand, that CPA.
Yes.
But the advisory lets you hire just analysts, economists, all kind of stuff. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love
absolutely.
it. Very cool. Well, cool. Okay, so let's close out, Michael. And what do you think? What should firms be thinking about in 2025? Could you pick a topic that this is what they really need to be staying ahead of and getting on top of?
Oh, it's hard to go away from the front runner, which is technology.
That's right. Yeah.
So, you got to have the mindset of adapting technology, and whether you're cutting edge or you're sort of second into the game, pay attention to what's happening and get your feet wet. I'd say the concept of outsourcing or offshoring or drawing in talent from outside of your own little backyard and in four walls, you need to continue to make those kinds of investments, and many firms have already started to dabble in that, whether that's borrowing someone locally within the United States or finding someone to be a member of your team from an offshore perspective. So I would say technology. I would say offshoring and capacity. I would say evolution to advisory, which we talked about. Yeah. And so broadening the service offering and being more consultative. And then the last thing I might add is just focusing on relationships, is being very intentional. We're transactional oftentimes.
Right.
To our detriment, and we're all busy, and we talked about the fact that there aren't enough people to do all the work, so
Right.
we're trying to get it out quickly and meet the deadlines. That's not building a relationship. And in today's environment, where you can be competing with an accounting firm that doesn't have any presence in your marketplace, but they can drip into your clients,
Sure.
and they're doing digital marketing. And think about, if you watch TV these days, you're seeing accounting firms advertise, let's say on CNBC, not just the big four,
Yeah.
but regional firms that are
crazy.
doing business nationally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That never happened before.
No.
So how do you define who your competition is?
Yeah.
They're from everywhere.
Yeah.
And so ever more important is the concept of deepening relationships with your clients and communicating with them in terms of the value that you're providing to them. They don't know if you're doing a good job for them for the most part.
Yeah.
Right? They can't decipher the quality of your audit or the tax compliance work that you're doing.
Yeah.
So they're just getting a feel from you. But I think too many times we just hand over these reports and these documents and these deliverables, and we send out a bill and we think we've done a great job.
Right.
And that's not building a relationship, and that's not expanding the opportunity to be an advisor and providing these non-traditional services, as you mentioned. So
Yeah.
I would put that on the top of my list for 2025 as well.
I love it. Very good. Well, Michael, it's cool to just pick your brain on just the perspective you have.
Thank you, Jason.
It's really cool.
It's been a great conversation.
Yeah.
And thank you for your time.
Yeah, it's very cool. Because the Alliance, I know BDO, the firm, is the 5th largest in the U.S.,
Yes.
but the BDO Alliance is up there. Its size is pretty.
We're bigger than BDO USA from a revenue perspective. Let's put it that way. And
That's
BDO
crazy.
is a $3 billion organization here in the U.S.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's big.
Wow, that's huge.
Very,
well, cool.
very, very
Nice. Well, cool. So, Michael, how can people find you online and just follow you online?
LinkedIn,
Yeah.
BDO.com has a section about our Alliance program if you're
Nice.
interested.
Okay.
And would love to chat with you.
Okay, very cool. All right, Michael, thank you for joining us on the Thrivecast, man.
Thank you, Jason.
All right.
Great seeing you.
We'll see you.